Horror fans, brace yourselves. What if a killer's voice could echo from beyond the grave, sparking a sequel that's even more chilling than the first? That's the electrifying twist behind Black Phone 2, where director Scott Derrickson dives into the unexpected inspiration that turned a standalone story into a gripping follow-up. As someone new to horror filmmaking, or just curious about behind-the-scenes magic, you'll appreciate how this evolution adds layers to the original tale, making it more emotionally charged and thought-provoking. Let's unpack how Derrickson, who had sworn off sequels until now, got pulled back into the darkness, and why this might just be the horror installment that leaves you questioning what revenge really means. Here's where it gets controversial. Derrickson had zero plans for a second chapter after directing the highly successful The Black Phone in 2022. Adapted from Joe Hill's short story, the film wrapped up neatly. Young hero Finney Blake, played by Mason Thames, outsmarted and defeated the notorious child-abducting killer, the Grabber, Ethan Hawke. It was a profitable hit, yet Derrickson felt the story was complete. No loose ends, no lingering threats. That is, until Hill fired off an email with a tantalizing idea for Black Phone 2. The hook? The Grabber calls Finn from hell. For beginners in horror tropes, think of it like a ghost story where the antagonist doesn't just haunt your nightmares, but dials in directly, opening doors to endless plot possibilities. Derrickson explains to The Hollywood Recorder that this simple pitch flipped his perspective, making him think, oh, the Grabber is on the other line. Sure, that's great, and it opens up a lot of possibilities. It wasn't obligation driving him, it was pure creative spark. And this is the part most people miss. Beyond the phone call from the underworld, another element sealed the deal. A two-part revelation midway through the sequel that ties the narratives together. Without spoiling for those who haven't seen it, and trust me, you want to experience this fresh. This twist involves the Grabber's deeper connection to Finney and Gwen's family history, specifically their mother's life and untimely end. Derrickson describes it as surprising and interesting, a major plot swerve in a film that keeps things relatively twist-free otherwise. For newcomers to horror, this is like adding an emotional backbone to a spooky tale. It gives the story depth, making you feel the weight of past traumas on the characters. It provided the emotional spinal cord for the movie, as Derrickson puts it, guiding how the plot builds tension and payoff. Derrickson committed to the sequel, but chose patience over rushing. Instead of jumping straight in like his studio urged, he directed another project, The Gorge, an action romance. Why? To let his young stars Thames and Madeline McGraw grow from middle schoolers into high schoolers. This timing shift transformed Black Phone 2 into a coming-of-age horror story set 4 years later, in 1982, bridging the gap from the first film's middle school vibes to teenage angst. Picking up where the original left off, the story finds Finney, now going by Finn, a local celebrity for slaying the Grabber. But fame has a dark side. He's dealing with unwanted attention that often turns physical, and psychologically, he's a wreck, turning to North Denver's low-quality cannabis to dull the pain. Gwen McGraw, meanwhile, faces her own demons, bullying at school because her psychic abilities, which helped crack the first case, are now public knowledge. She's plagued by sleepwalking and intense dreams featuring the Grabber and an eerie winter camp called Alpine Lake. Venturing to Alpine Lake to investigate, Finn and Gwen encounter the Grabber's vengeful spirit. But instead of targeting Finn, the killer focuses on Gwen in her dreams, seeking payback for Finn's role in the death of his brother, Max, James Ransone. This shift makes Gwen the central figure, reversing roles from the first film where she was the rescuer. Derrickson notes, in this movie, the roles are really reversed. Gwen's the one in peril, and Finn spends his time trying to be her protector. It makes sense for deeper storytelling. Gwen struggles, grieving her mother's death, navigating her inherited gift, and feeling like an outsider, are complex, requiring her arc to drive the narrative. In a candid chat with THR, Derrickson addresses various angles. You initially resisted a sequel until Joe Hill's email sparked interest. Correct, I wasn't considering it at all. Did you think he suggested the Grabber pursuing Gwen in dreams right away? No, his pitch was more detailed, though I didn't use most of it. I felt no pressure to sequelize. But that line about the grabber calling Finn from hell grabbed me. It felt fresh and full of potential. The studio wanted a quick follow-up, but you waited to make it a high school story. Yes, letting the actors age turned it into an interesting evolution, showing Finn and Gwen's growth post-trauma. Spoiler alert ahead. You expanded character backstories. How much thought went into these reveals? This dives into spoilers. But the grabber's involvement in Finn and Gwen's mother's fate was the key jolt. It surprised and intrigued me, sparking countless story ideas. It's the film's big twist, providing that emotional core. Figuring out how to resurrect the grabber's menace without cheap scares took lots of brainstorming. Spoiler section ends with Black Phone as middle school and Black Phone 2 as high school horror. Could there be a college sequel? It's possible, but I'm focused on this one. Planning too far ahead can box in creativity, so I aim to outdo the original without franchise pressures. You insisted on McGraw for Gwen again, and now she's the lead. Was Thames cool with that? Absolutely. He knows it's a duo-centric story about their bond. He enjoyed the role reversal, giving him protective action scenes that fit his character's journey. Finn's challenges are straightforward compared to Gwen's intricate ones, like coping with loss and feeling freakish. Her story needed center stage for real impact. Your film helped Thames land a role in How to Train Your Dragon. Proud? Definitely. I even lobbied for him. These kids are emotionally mature beyond their years, needing minimal guidance. I'd prep McGraw with notes like, crank it to 11 for this scene, and they'd adapt instantly. It's rewarding to have discovered them. They've got bright futures. The movie touches on true Christianity versus lip service, with Demian Behir's character, inspired by camp counselors from your youth. Yes, those conservative Christian winter camps shaped me, despite rejecting much of their teachings. The counselors, mostly Mexican-American men from my diverse North Denver neighborhood, offered positive influences. Drawing from that for the snowy camp setting, let me highlight their kindness in a hellish scenario. And now, collaborating with your son Atticus on the score after working with Ross and Reznor? Was he shocked when you asked? He admires them, but after dropping out of Berkeley, he was ready. He composed tracks proactively, like they do, which worked perfectly. His hip-hop background gives him a strong sense of rhythm and bass, ideal for this horror tone. As a film buff since childhood, he intuitively grasps scene needs. I gave him the same advice as others. Don't just mirror the visuals. Add a third layer for extra power. His work on the finale is stellar, blending horror with emotion. Ethan Hawke's character in Sinister resembles you? Was that intentional? Ha! No. He modeled it after me, even asking about my glasses and mimicking my beard tugging. Black Phone 2 hits theaters October 17th, promising scares and heart. But here's a controversial angle. Does resurrecting villains from the dead cheapen horror's finality, or does it add thrilling depth? And what about exploring faith through film? Does it risk alienating audiences or spark meaningful debate? Do you agree with waiting for actors to age for sequels, or should studios rush for profits? Share your take in the comments. Let's discuss.